3, 2, 1.
I wanted to film this. I've never taken one of these apart. This is a vacuum from your engine, comes in there, and runs your windshield wipers. But this one's crusty, so I was gonna take it apart. They've actually all broke free. I don't want to jinx myself yet. Now I'm gonna pull it all apart. There's a little set screw that runs to that tube in there. And I have a bunch of extras that came in a box, so if I need to, hopefully I can scavenge some parts from another one. They all look a little different, but kind of similar. My big hope is there's not some kind of little diaphragm in there that's rubber that I can't find. So we'll see how this goes. All right, well, I had to refilm this because the other footage was horrible to watch. So this is the vacuum window regulator after I put it all together. So this is a little different than original because I ran another tube out of here, and so I put a little cap on this one. That way it keeps the pressure in, and then I'm gonna have to run a hose up and over. But this is what it would look like. This is what comes through your cab, bolts above your windshield. This is the piece that spins and moves your wipers. So I'm assuming, because I've never used this, on, off, and then this is your speed control, because it's kind of like a needle valve in there somewhat. So let me show you some of the pieces that go into it. So this is obviously the big piece. This is, for simpler terms, this is where your piston slides back and forth. And obviously it's not a piston, it's this piece, which has little rubber ends on it. It has this little stopper and then this little stopper. So if you take, this is your bottom piece, that stopper is supposed to, in theory, rest against here, and then this stops on this side. So this needs to be clean and smooth enough so this can slide back and forth just with the vacuum pressure. All right. So this piece is pretty simple. They all look pretty much the same on all the four that I had. So on this setup, this sleeve is stationary. It slides down in a little groove right here. That little nut slides down in there. And then whenever that's clamped, this is supposed to stay still. This is what rotates. Obviously, that's your shaft. This stays stationary. This end rotates. This little piece rotates on its own, which is a little crazy. There's a little spring that I'll show you in a minute, and that flip-flops. And I think what it does is when it flips, it closes an air passage and opens another one, and that's what sucks from one side and then switches and sucks from the other side. So this piece needs to look pretty good. None of these look good. None of these little stoppers look good except for this one that looked rebuilt on there. So, and then I had to flip this around. So there's a rivet in here. There's a rivet in here, just sandwiches everything together. If you take that apart, there's a little arm on here, and that goes down in here. And then on this side, there's a little hole, and then that runs in, and then your rivet runs through there. So you can switch those around. It's a little bit of a pain, I won't lie, but you can switch those around, which I did. This is the bottom piece. Again, this top slides in there, so that needs to be clean. And this is somewhat like a carburetor where there's air passages need to be clean. There's a gasket that runs in between this surface and the other one just to keep the air tight. Nothing too crazy, but these are different because my other one had basically this flip-flopped, so I had to mismatch parts. So on this part, there is a little, let's call it a bushing. It feels like foam or something. So that runs in there. This piece runs up here. And then this spring connects right here, connects up here, and runs down, and that's what hooks onto this shaft, and then this just stays in there. So just to give you an idea of what you're working with. And then whenever you get to this part, your on off, there's some air passages there. You know, this slides back and forth in there. So this piece rests against the bottom. You can see there's some little air openings there. There's a little spring that keeps tension on it but still lets it slide. And then this rests this way, or maybe it's flip-flop. And then all that is just screwed down. Nothing crazy. I kind of put a little grease on mine to make sure it can move easy, because if you think about it, if it's really hard to move, it's going to be putting a lot of pressure on the front of your cab, and my cab's a little crusty, so I don't want to do that. This is that front piece. It just kind of hooks. It just kind of hooks on here. It's got an angle on it so that it meets up with your cab smooth, and then there's a matching one for the front. Here's your little cover for your front down here. And this little, I'm calling it a needle valve, but this had a little spring in there. I kind of chewed all that up because I was tearing it apart. But that has a little spring in there. This little piece ran in there, and then this piece was mounted to the outside. But all that casting broke when I was messing with it, so that's what it looks like. If it works, I don't know. I need to hook it up to a running car so I have vacuum. But this is another solution. This one came with the 4 that I had, and some of the parts work on it, but it's a little different. And I don't know if they made this shaft come out or if someone else did. So they drilled some openings on the end. I don't know if they put that shaft in or not, but now it's one solid unit. And then now they just ran their wipers by rotating them in the cab, which is obviously an okay solution if you really need it, because at least your wipers work. I just thought it was funny that I was wondering what this wire was, and then once I started playing with it, I was like, oh, okay. Someone, you know, farm rigged it up. And if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do, because I heard these vacuum ones don't work that well, and we'll see, because if I hook it up to a car and it doesn't move that well, I might have to throw in the other one and just do it by hand. I didn't show me testing it, but I went on the Jeep and hooked up my vacuum gauge. So I had 25 inches of vacuum and hooked up my wiper motor. Still didn't work. So it's kind of tight moving it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep kind of filing on the rubber and try to get that to move a lot easier. That way it doesn't have as much resistance, but also try to keep that seal intact. So yeah, this is gonna be a hard one. Rebuilt it again. Not that it's the hardest to rebuild, but it's just annoying whenever it was kind of moving and now it's not. So I don't know if this little gasket is too thick. I haven't been able to find a replacement one online anywhere. So I mean, this one is pretty thin, but I figured it was thin because it's squashed down, but I don't know. It's not working. I'm done with it. To wrap up this video, I'm so over this stupid vacuum windshield wiper motor. It's horrible. I see why everyone converts to the electric motor. That thing sucks. I don't know if it doesn't have good seal, compression. My gaskets aren't amazing. Who knows, but I did cut some new gaskets, put it in, so that's round 2 of gaskets. It's not really my favorite. I'm sure there's some better tools to make better ones, but the gasket is in all the right spots, tighten it up, and maybe it's too thick and it's not, and so that would kind of open up a little space if you think of it like the piston to the wall. Who knows? It just doesn't seem like it has good compression. It's not moving. I'm hooking it up to the Jeep engine. It's not pumping anymore. It actually did better before with the horrible little gaskets, so maybe it is too thick. I don't know what to tell you. I'm done working on it. I do not plan on driving this truck in the rain. If whoever buys it wants to do that all the time with these skinny little tires and all this horsepower, they can buy an electric motor and put it up top. I wanted it to look original. I wanted the vacuum one to work, but it's eating up so much time. Maybe I'll play with it one more day, but I really doubt it.